Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are looking at the NECA Predators series, Classic Predator. Not to be confused with the Classic Predator that they put out in the Predators line. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but this is the Predator from the original movie. The main difference between that and the Classic Predator from the Predators movie are all these little bone trophies on him. Basically the same character that we also got released in the 2-pack that came out around Christmas time in 2010. And this figure is kind of going to be a bit of a redo of one I already did, because I already reviewed the Classic Predator from the Predators line with the open mandibles unmasked. And this shares the same body with it. As I said, he has these additional pieces on here. And a new head sculpt. But I'm going to treat it like a fresh slate, and we'll just go through him like any other figure. NECA continues to do a fantastic job on these Predator figures. It's always exciting when new waves come out, and I just picked this guy up at Toys R Us today. They're finally starting to hit shelves, and I couldn't be more excited about them. The body sculpt is what we've come to expect. It has all the detailing of the mesh in here. Though I have noticed that one of my big complaints with the first release was that a lot of these lines weren't connecting, whether it be through sculpt or paint. This one has a much more solid mesh pattern on him. Looks really nice. He has all the sculpted armor. A lot of it is soft rubber to give it a more realistic feel. He's got his little control panel here. I still wish they would retool this so that it opened, but can't have everything. I love the piping on the armor. It's designed very well. I don't think you could break it if you tried. Well, you could break it, but just by moving the joints in a normal way, you're not going to overextend it and snap it. Unlike the Wolf Predator, his plasma cannon and backpack are removable. We'll take a look at that separately. It's pretty nicely sculpted. Once again, it's a piece we've gotten. We've gotten this figure. This is the 4th time we've gotten this figure from NECA with just minor tweaks. So it's basically the same routine as we've had before, but it's still a nice figure. The cannon's articulated. You could rotate it up at the top here and down at the bottom. Get all kinds of nice angles out of it. Mounting it I still find a little tricky. You want to get that clip on the bottom in first, and then slide it up into the top. It stays on decently well, but it could be done a little better. I'm just glad we finally got around to getting the masked version of this guy, so that it makes sense for him to use the plasma cannon. Granted, the one version of this I have skipped is the classic masked Predator with the battle damage, and I think the mask was torn away at the side and there was blood splots on him. I just couldn't get too excited about that figure since he wears the mask for like 30 seconds in the movie. I didn't really see it was worth it, but I'm glad I got this guy since he spends most of the movie in this mask. The trophies are pretty well detailed. They're on an actual string. You kind of have to play around with them to get them to look right. They have a tendency to flop around, especially, moving the figure, trying to get them into poses. You have to be a little careful with it. Gauntlet, same as ever. You got it retracted. You could pull it out to extend it. Mine kind of V's off here. And all of these have seemed to be different to me. They warp in different ways in packaging and stuff. But you can kind of play with them and get them evened out a little bit if you want to mess with them. The head sculpt, once again, is fantastic. A lot of nice detail in it. Looks really sinister, just the way it should. There's a lot of char marks and dings in the metal, which is well detailed. There is a seam running down the middle of it, but it's hard to notice, so I can't complain too much about it. You get the 3 dots there for the laser, and you can definitely still see the bits of the head sticking out at the top, and under the chin here you can still see the head, as well as the side. The dreadlocks are well done. A lot of them, they're all kind of separate, so you could pose them a little bit, at least move them around in a more realistic fashion than the clumpy ones we've gotten in the past with other figures. And that brings me on to my favorite part about this guy, the paint. Because we've gotten a different paint scheme on this one than we have in the past. If we bring in his Christmas 2-pack counterpart here, you can see that this guy's a lot glossier and a lot shinier in general. With this one, there's almost kind of a matte finish to him. He's still a little shiny, but this one definitely has a lot more gloss on him. He looks more amphibian, reptilian looking. Very cool. The armor has a really nice metallic sheen on it. And I was a little disappointed when I first got the guy out of the package. I'm like, oh, his paint doesn't match the old one. It's almost like you couldn't really mix and match them if you felt like it. But still really awesome. It looks much better on this one. I think they kind of learned some lessons with their 18-inch scale ones, and they made some improvements, which is definitely nice seeing that they're reissuing us the same body with a new head. For articulation, you've got the ball jointed neck. It's actually articulated both in the head and at the neck. It's a post that runs up. The post is on a ball, and then the head can kind of swivel and rotate a little bit on the post itself, which is quite nice. Swivel at the waist. Ball jointed at the upper arm, or the shoulder, I mean. The elbow can bend and swivel. Ball jointed hand, you could also rotate it. V cut at the hips. You could also swivel at the upper leg. Bend and swivel the knee. And a ball jointed foot. If you wanted to count it, you could also count in that swivel and bend on the cannon as well. To bring in the full range of classic style Predators, at least that I have right now, the 3 NECA ones. We have the Christmas pack here on the left, the Stew one here in the middle, the mast, and the first classic Predator that came out that was from the 2010 movie. I am not a fan of figures that just kind of get slightly tweaked, reissued, but for these, I felt like it's worth it. I feel like each one of these has a different character to it, has a different look, a different feel, and I feel like they all deserve a place in my collection. And I think that's a real trick, to be able to put out figures that only really make minor modifications to a previous figure and still make them appealing to collectors. I feel like NECA's really done that with this. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend this guy. It's kind of a funny recommend though, because if you like this line as much as I do, you probably already have some version of him. Getting this guy now, I am glad that I skipped out on the battle damaged one from the 2010 movie, because I don't think there would have been enough of a difference between that one and this one to really justify having them both. I'm glad I held out, stuck to it, just got this guy. He's a fantastic figure. Now I got a lot more Predator coming this week. I hope to review the other 2 figures in this wave. I picked up the Elder Predator today. Unfortunately, he broke coming out of package, so he's going back to the store tomorrow, so fingers crossed I'll have a new one to review. And sometime in the next couple days, I should also be getting the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Gort Predator, which, wouldn't you know it, once again, is this body with another head sculpt. But he's got a couple little change-ups that make him that much cooler. I'm very excited to get him. And a quick note, if you're hunting down this guy at Toys R Us, I don't know what the mix is in the box. When I got there, there were 2 elders, 2 dogs, and 1 of these guys. Now I don't know if somebody picked up a full set of the 3 and left, and then some. From my experience, this was the one that was lower quantity than the others. So if you're not sure which one to jump on first, this might be a good bet. This has been another Outside the Box review. Stay tuned for more to come, and especially more Predator.